Hello and welcome back to my brand new video. Are you interested in China? Good, because in this series we will discuss many questions such as: is China socialist? Is China an imperialist country? Does China have a dictatorship of the proletariat? Is China really one of the most totalitarian regimes in the world? Does China kill Muslims? And many other questions. And to not be biased at all, we will use Xi Jinping's books The Governance of China, Volume 1 and 2, to analyze China today. So, if you are a leftist or just a curious person interested in China or politics in general, just watch and enjoy the video. Analyzing China with Xi Jinping's Literature, Episode 4. Does China kill Muslims, Uyghurs, and other minorities? Whether China kills Muslims, Uyghurs, and other minorities or not is one of the most heated topics in politics in general. Some, including often socialists, say yes. Others say that China is just fighting terrorism. So, what's true now? Everyone has their own personal bias. So let's just see what Xi Jinping has to say on this question in his books, The Governance of China, Volume 1 and 2. So first of all, does Xi Jinping want to treat Muslims and Uyghurs equally? Let's see what he says in his literature about that. Multi-ethnicity is one of China's distinguishing features. It has played a key role in the country's development. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 327. The unification of the 56 ethnic groups into one nation is an invaluable treasure bestowed by our ancestors and one of the country's great strengths. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 327. The correct and Chinese way to solve ethnic issues must follow these principles, upholding the leadership of the CPC, persevering in the socialist path with Chinese characteristics, safeguarding the unity of the country, adhering to the principle of equality among all ethnic groups, maintaining and improving the regional ethnic autonomy system, insisting that all ethnic groups work together and achieve common prosperity, consolidating the ideal that the Chinese nation is a community formed by all ethnic groups, practicing the rule of law, enhancing the communication and exchanges, promoting harmonious and peaceful coexistence, consolidating and developing socialist ethnic relations, featuring equality, unity, mutual assistance, and harmony, and achieving the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation together. I think it's pronounced rejuvenation, I don't care. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 328. As we can see, Xi Jinping supports multiculturalism, equality between ethnicities, and harmony between them. So he doesn't hate Tibetans, Uyghurs, and other ethnic minorities. He opposes racism and stuff like that. So yeah, he isn't a racist, he isn't a xenophobe. Okay, so what does he exactly think of giving them autonomy and self-determination to, Uyghurs, Tibetans, and so on? Let's see what he has to say on that. Without national unification, there is no way to practice regional ethnic autonomy, while making sure that state laws and administrative regulations are effectively followed. We need to guarantee the right of autonomous regions to exercise autonomy, provide them with specific support, and help their individual problems. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 328. We must make it clear that regional ethnic autonomy is not exclusive to one ethnic group, and that an ethnic autonomous area does not refer to an area that belongs to a single ethnic group. If we fail to understand this, we will take a wrong path. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 328 to 329. Stalin has the same views as Xi Jinping on the national question, self-determination and autonomy for people. Let's see what Stalin says on this topic. Formerly, the principle of self-determination of nations was misinterpreted, and not infrequently it was narrowed down to the idea of the right of nations to autonomy. Certain leaders of the Second International even went so far as to as far as to turn the right of self-determination into the right to cultural autonomy, i.e. the right of oppressed nations to have their own cultural institutions, leaving all political power in the hands of the ruling nation. Joseph Stalin, The Foundations of Leninism, Chapter 6. The advantage of regional autonomy consists first of all in the fact that it does not deal with a fiction bereft of territory but with a definite population inhabiting a defined territory. Next, it does not divide people according to nations, it does not strengthen national barriers. On the contrary, it breaks down these barriers and unites the population in such a manner as to open the way for division of a different kind, division according to classes. Finally, it makes it possible to utilize the natural wealth of a region and to develop its productive forces in the best way possible without evading the decisions of a common center, functions which are not inherent features of cultural or national autonomy. Thus, regional autonomy is an essential element in the solution of the national question. Joseph Stalin, Marxism and the National Question, Chapter 7. It is expressed in two words, cultural national autonomy. This means firstly that autonomy will be granted, let us say not to Bohemia and Poland, which are mainly inhabited by Czechs and Poles, but to Czechs and Poles generally, irrespective of territory, no matter what part of Austria they inhabit. That is why this autonomy is called national and not territorial. It means secondly that the Czechs, Poles and Germans, and so on, scattered over the various parts of Austria, taken personally as individuals, are to be organized into integral nations, and are as such to form part of the Austrian state. In this way, Austria would represent not a union of autonomous regions, but a union of autonomous nationalities, constituted irrespective of territory. Joseph Stalin, Marxism and the National Question, Chapter 4. One might think that all this concerns Austria alone, but Bauer does not agree. He emphatically declares that national autonomy is essential also for other states, which, like Austria, consist of several nationalities. In a multinational state, according to Bauer, the working class of all nations opposes the national power policy of the propertite. I think it's pronounced propertite or propertite, I don't know. I think propertite classes with a demand for national autonomy, then imperceptibly substituting national autonomy for the self-determination of nations. He continues, thus, national autonomy, the self-determination of nations, will necessarily become the constitutional program of the proletariat of all the nations in a multinational state. Joseph Stalin, Marxism and the National Question, Chapter 4. As we can see, both Stalin and Xi Jinping support the right to self-determination, autonomy for all ethnic groups in multinational states like the Soviet Union and China. Regional autonomy, and that regional autonomy should belong to all ethnic groups and so on. The national question is one of the only things where Xi has the same views as a Marxist on an issue. A Marxist like Stalin, for example. Okay, anyway, so what does she think of Muslims, religion, and other religious minorities? Let's see what he has to say on this. But let us first have a little ad and a trivia question. Trivia time. When did the conflict in Xinjiang start? A. In the 1950s. B. In the 1970s. C. In the 1980s. D. In the 2010s. You'll get the answer later. But first, let us continue having the ad. Now, before I will give you the answer to the trivia question, okay? Let me tell you one thing. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Put the bell on. Put the bell on, I mean. And please share my channel, share my videos, like them. Please do that. Comment if you have questions. Please just support my channel. It's having a really dark period for a long time right now. Okay, like the subscriber amount is stagnating for centuries. So please help me. Okay, thank you. The answer is A. In the 1950s, when China annexed Xinjiang. Religion in this context, have an impact on the development of our cause, on the blood and flesh bond between the body and the people, on social harmony and ethnic solidarity, and on national security and unification. In this area, we are doing well on the whole. Our party guidelines on religion have been carried out. The relations between the party and religious circles grow stronger. The rule of law has been improved in our work with religions, and religious activities are conducted in a smooth and orderly way. The facts prove that our party's theories, guidelines, and policies on religion are correct. To do our work well, we must follow the party's basic guidelines on religion, comprehensively implement the party's policies on freedom of religious belief, manage religious affairs by law, adhere to the principle of religious groups managing their own affairs, and encourage religions to adapt to socialist society. Of course, he's not a socialist, he doesn't want socialism. We already debunked that, but this is what he's saying. Anyway, let's continue. The party's basic guidelines on religion result from the adherence to Marxist views on religion, from a consideration of the prevailing conditions in China and the realities of religion in China, and from a reflection on successes and failures in how we have dealt with the religion. Their prime purpose and ultimate goal in implementing policies on freedom of religious belief is to unite believers and non-believers to the maximum extent. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 329. Xi Jinping addressed that China has the same policy on religion as Marxism. Let's see what Marxist writers, specifically Marx, Engels, and Lenin, say about that. Incompatibility between religion and the rights of man is to such a degree absent from the concept of the rights of man that, on the contrary, a man's right to be religious in any way he chooses to practice his own particular religion is expressly included among the rights of man. The privilege of faith is a universal right of man. Marx and Engels, The Jewish Question. Lenin, publicly at least, had pretty much the same views on religion as Marx and Engels, but he also said some other things, for example this. Religion must be declared a private affair. In these ways, socialists usually express their attitude towards religion. Vladimir Lenin, Socialism and Religion. Lenin, just like Marx and Engels, also says complete separation of church and state is what the socialist proletariat demands of the modern state and its modern church. Vladimir Lenin, Socialism and Religion. Basically, Xi Jinping, just like Marxists, believes in religious freedom, secularism, and believes that it must be a private matter. Okay, so you may ask me now, Comrade King, if Xi Jinping is anti-racist and if he opposes religious bigotry, then why is he killing people in Tibet, Xinjiang, and Hong Kong and is invading them? Let's see what he has to say about that. The Chinese people cherish peace. We will not engage in aggression or expansion, but we are confident that we will defeat any aggressor. We will never allow any person, any organization, or any political party to split any part of the Chinese territory away from a country at any time, in any form. No one should expect us to accept anything that damages our sovereignty, security, or development interests. The military must resolutely safeguard the party's leadership and our socialist sovereignty, security, and interests, and regional and world peace. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 2, page 454. Basically, Xi Jinping opposes separatists. He doesn't want people to become independent and damage the national sovereignty of China. Those who do will be fought by China, which is what is happening to separatists in China. But this is not the only reason why China is fighting, invading, or straight up killing people. It fights separatists, right? Who else? Let's see now. By the way, if you were wondering, this and the next two quotes by Xi are from my Is China Imperialist video that you must watch. And also, after the two quotes that I'm going to show you by Xi, we will read one quote by Stalin, where Stalin also opposes separatism. And yeah, I think we will end the video after that. Okay, let's go. Countering terrorism has a direct bearing on national security, the people's immediate interests, and reform, development, and stability. The battle against terrorism safeguards national unity, social stability, and the people's well-being. We must take decisive measures in deterring terrorism and keep up the pressure to thwart terrorism. We should work out a sound anti-terrorist work pattern, improve our anti-terrorism work system, and build up our anti-terrorism strength. We should enlist both professional forces and the public in the fight against terrorism, get the general public to carry out different forms of activities against terrorism, build an impregnable anti-terrorism network, and ensure that terrorists are hunted down like rats. We should also let patriotic religious personages play a role, enhance positive guidance for religious believers, meet the latter's normal religious needs, and effectively resist the infiltration of religious extremism. Terrorism denies basic human rights, tramples on humanitarian justice, and challenges the shared norms of human civilization. It is not an issue of ethnicity, nor an issue of religion. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 1, page 234, PDF version. Regarding the fight against terrorism, the UN should play a bigger role by promoting clear-out criteria of right and wrong, so as to advance the fight against terrorism of all forms. It should also serve as the main channel in protecting cybersecurity, advocate rules, sovereignty, and transparency in this regard, respect the concerns of different countries over information safety, and achieve common management. China will continue to firmly support the UN. Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, Volume 1, page 276, PDF version. Basically, Xi Jinping also opposes terrorism and quite literally wants to massacre them, as we saw by seeing his quote, hunting them down like rats. So that's the other reason as to why China is fighting people in some areas like Xinjiang and Tibet. Keep in mind that they don't fight everyone, just separatists and terrorists. Anyway, they have a right to independence, right? I'm talking about the Uyghurs and Tibet and stuff like that, you know? Stalin tends to disagree. Let's see what Stalin says. We have seen that cultural national autonomy is unsuitable. Firstly, it is artificial and impracticable, for it proposes artificially to draw into a single nation people whom the march of events, real events, is disuniting and despairing dispersing to every corner of the country. Secondly, it stimulates nationalism because it leads to the viewpoint in favor of the demarcation of people according to national cure, the organization of nations, the preservation and cultivation of national per- peculiarities, all of which are entirely incompatible with social democracy. It is not fortuitous that the Moravian separatists in the Reichsrat, having served themselves from the German Social Democratic deputies, have united with the Moravian bourgeois deputies to form a single, so to speak, Moravian colo. Nor is it fortuitous that the separatists of the Bund have got themselves involved in nationalism by acclaiming the Sabbath and Yiddish. There are no Bundist deputies yet in the Duma, but in the Bund area there is a clerical reactionary Jewish community in the controlling institutions, of which the Bund is arranging for beginning a get-together of the Jewish workers and bourgeois. Such is the logic of cultural national autonomy. Thus, national autonomy does not solve the problem. What then is the way out? The only correct solution is regional autonomy. Autonomy for such crystallized units as Poland, Lithuania, the Ukraine, the Caucasus, etc. Basically, Stalin opposes separatism and advocates for autonomy instead. In conclusion, China is anti-racist, pro-religious freedom, and fights terrorists and separatists. Also, this is my last China episode, okay? However, if you want the series to have one more episode, an episode on whether or not China will become socialist in 2050, then please get me to 725 subs, get me to 1000 views on my China series, at best 300 views on my first two China videos, and 200 views on my other two China videos, and please get my China series around 75 likes in total. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Also, I'm just not in the mood anymore to continue our China series. However, I will make one more episode if you do what I said, okay? Thank you.